First, we're getting started with the story behind the Indianapolis Women's Equity Brunch, or We Brunch Indy. The next quarterly brunch is coming up November 5th at the Biltwell Event Center in Indianapolis. The topic, Women Building Generational Wealth. We talked to a co-founder of the event, Danisha Posey.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started.
We Brunch, or Women's Equity Brunch, was a brainchild of mine and my colleague Amanda Bonilla. A few years ago, we were actually at work talking, and I said, women love to get dressed up, go to brunch, have a fancy drink and a nice meal. And she was like, yeah. And I said, but women also love to talk about things that are very important and helpful in society. I was like, how can we put the two things together? And she said, well, let's just do it. And so that's just how We Brunch was created. We thought about a way to ensure that women could talk about important topics at the intersection of race, sexual orientation, disability status, veteran status, things like that, in a safe space for only women. And so the very first We Brunch was founded on the idea of discussing pay equity. And so typically when people think about pay equity, they think about how men and women make different amount of money doing substantially similar work, but for different pay. And so we wanted to bring that to the forefront and not only just talk about the pay inequities between men and women, but the pay inequities between women at the intersection of race. And so for every dollar a white man makes in Central Indiana, an Asian woman makes 85 cents, a white woman makes 76 cents, a black woman makes 58 cents, and a Latina woman makes 53 cents. And so we wanted to bring that to the forefront of the conversation, that even between women there are inequities, and how should women rise together to advocate for all women to ensure that we could create more equity in areas such as pay. We found that through our brunches, women were able to connect with one another in ways that they hadn't been able to before. Especially coming out of the pandemic where people have been leery to get back together in person. The We Brunch experience allowed the opportunity for women to kind of ease back into that space of being out in the open, but also being able to meet other women around Central Indiana that had the same ideas, the same convictions as them, but in different areas. And so we found that not only has We Brunch brought women together to learn about these important topics, but to create networking opportunities, to create business opportunities, to create friendships that have lasted beyond what we could have ever imagined. So we do a lot of research around issues of inequities that women face locally and nationally. And so what we've been able to find is that there are some really big topics that are important to women at all levels. We've talked about women's health issues. We've talked about civic engagement and how you can advocate for yourself through the legislative process, not only at the local level, but also at the national level. We've talked about pay equity, as I've mentioned, and this upcoming brunch will be talking about generational wealth building for women. So the upcoming brunch is going to be held on November 5th at the Biltwell, downtown Indianapolis. And this brunch will focus on generational wealth building for women. What we found through our research is that 59% of Black women are not investing in anything. And an additional 63% of Latina women are not investing either, compared to 23% of white men. So why aren't women investing? What is stopping women from investing? And so we have a group of, as you mentioned, a distinct group of women of doing in different industries to talk about generational wealth. We have financial advisors, we have estate planners, we have a Latina who immigrated to this country and became a very successful business owner, and she'll talk specifically about how she's been able to build that generational wealth in her family. And so we like to bring women from different walks of life together to these panel discussions so that all of our participants can hear something different, something that they can take back for themselves to help them build that generational wealth. So stocks, bonds, and investments in real estate, and all those sorts of things are several of the topics that we'll be touching on. So we host 200 women at the We Brunch. And prior to the brunch starting, we have a networking opportunity where women can just engage with one another. As I mentioned, women like to dress up, so there will be lots of photo opportunities for women to take. We have mimosas and all sorts of different drinks for women where they all get together. They start to have those conversations where they start to network and meet different women. During the brunch, we'll have the panel discussion, and then following the brunch, there's also another networking opportunity. And we have to drag people out because they don't want to leave. It's such an inspiring event, and it gets women, really excited and happy to be there. I would love to see We Brunch branch out to different cities. We've actually had some folks reach out to us in different cities to ask how could we do something like that in places such as Indianapolis and Atlanta. And so we're excited to see what the possibilities of that. Additionally, we really want to focus on how do we ensure that the research that we're doing and the panel discussions that we're having is actually creating some systemic change in Central Indiana, for example. And so we don't want to just have the brunch and have these great conversations. We want to see where they can lead. And so that is really the next step of We Brunch. How are we ensuring that the things that we're talking about really create some advocacy for women and create some positive change? It feels so amazing to do the work that we're doing at We Brunch. I actually bring my 9-year-old daughter with me to every brunch. She's the only little kid there. I've given her the opportunity to even be on stage. She kind of wrote some remarks her own self and was able to say that in front of 200 women. And so just the power that this creates, not only for myself and for other women, but to look at the generations that are coming after us. How are we creating something today that can make a positive change for the generations after us? And that's what I'm